No, it was number 6. You got ahead of me on here. We're going to be changing the string first. That's okay. We didn't work this out ahead of time. Okay, so welcome to the world of putting a bridge back on. Obviously, it can be something that can really kind of freak you out the very first time it happens, if it happens at all. What we're trying to do is avoid having this happen on the way of putting it back in. These things are not foolproof, in terms of their design, but it's not the end of the world if the bridge happens to get tipped over a little bit. As we're tuning, there are a couple things that often happen to it. Now, first of all, it never gets glued on the instrument, so that's why all these problems happen to begin with. And I don't know why it's not, but I suppose there are some design issues for that. If it happens to come off like this, first thing you need to realize is that the bridge is not completely symmetrical. In other words, the shape of it is not the same on both sides. So it has one side where it slopes down more, and one side where it slopes down less. So the spot of the bridge where it's highest goes where the strings are the lowest. It's to keep them off the fingerboard so they can vibrate more. So I'm looking at, most of the time what they do is they set it up so that if you're looking at the brand name, it's like product placement, if you're looking at the brand name, that's how it's going to go on the instrument. So if this ever should happen to you, the first thing that you'll do is loosen your strings a little bit. That will make you feel much better about not breaking the bridge as it goes up. And this is one thing I'm not going to have you. I'll do this part because this is one of those things that we hope just never happens. But we're trying to find the right place for it. Now, obviously, on some instruments, like on Anna's here, we can see where it was before, which is very convenient. But if you don't happen to have the telltale signs of where it was, where the F holes are, they got these little notches. And if you imagine a line going between the middle notch on one to the middle notch on the other, the bridge would be right in a line in between them. And so we place the feet in that area and then just swing it up. Now, while I'm on the subject, we also want to make sure whenever we're tuning that the strings are kind of coming down the middle, like the middle lane of the fingerboard. Quite often, this happens a lot on cellos because of the soft cases. Quite often, I take it, or you take out your cello and say, oh, some of my strings are out of tune, and that's only because the bridge got just pushed to the side, so it made one side a little too high and the other side too low. Okay, and usually all it takes is just moving it back to the middle to put it pretty much in tune. And one other thing about the strings, we're going to see this one, and it's time just to put on a new string, but we have these little, I don't even know what the technical term is. I just call them little slidey things. They're there to give you a slightly darker sound. They really don't serve any major function. In fact, on most instruments, we don't really use them, except on the E string for the violin. But if you have them, it's okay to put them there. So basically, they kind of line up like little cushions on the bridge. And then once that's in place, and I look to see that it's standing nice and straight, that it's in that nice straight line here, then I can put it back into tune.
Wait, can you do my A and the D string because I already have those two?
Sure. And by the way, if they ever go loose, the other thing you need to watch out for is there's little notches here where the grooves that they lie in. There's grooves on the bridge where they should be in also. So with Ashley's viola, her A string was coming off. I made a deeper groove there, so it kept that from going up. Here you're right. Yeah. Okay. Now, the final step, and this sort of brings everything full circle with it, or it puts all the skills into it, is if we ever have the string break. And thankfully, we didn't have it so far, so this is just a hypothetical situation. It will never happen, knock on wood or something. But if a string ever does break, and first of all, like I said, they're designed to be the thing that breaks rather than the much more expensive bridge or the tailpiece or the rest of the body of the instrument. We're just talking a bit about what strings are made of, how they look. They're basically metal wound around a sort of a plastic inside cord, like a nylon cord. So there's actually two parts to it. There's an inside part and there's the outside winding. In addition to that, you also have, usually some sort of thread or it's very, very fine thread wrapped around to go at the top. You have another amount at the bottom where a loop has been made, and often they give you like a little, like a bearing there, metal piece to fit inside your tuner. This one has the, here I am with my fancy terms, little slidey thing. And all of this is, this is probably an E string for, so this one was left, without an identification, but this is probably an E string for about a half-size violin. And so it's a little on the shorter side. What you're going to end up doing is trying to get as much tension on it without having, so you don't have to keep redoing the turning. So one of the things that we're looking to do, and to show you how vested I am in your success, I'm going to do this to my own violin. So I'm going to do my E string as an example. Now, when you're doing this with a string that's already been on the instrument, it's much harder because it's already kind of curled up a little bit. It's already bent up. The new strings are actually easier to put in because you can put them in straight. But I'll show you this for right now. This is the peg on its own. It's got that little tiny hole in it. And they do wear down over time. At some point I'm going to need new pegs for this violin because I've been pushing them in so far that now that hole is almost underneath the side there, the side wall. But when I'm doing this on mine, it doesn't matter what end you start with. Not really. I prefer putting the bearing end in first and just kind of looping that in. But once that's in there, it's very easy for it to fall out again. Because if it came out, for you to take it out, it's very easy to, for it to fall out if you just sort of like let go of it. It'll just come out again. So you're going to keep a little bit of tension on it. In other words, just pull it kind of just gently as you're working with the other end. And I always like to face it. Notice the knee technique here. Now, since this is a string that was already in there, I'm going to try and straighten it just a little bit without poking a hole in myself. But again, I'm going to try and keep some tension there. And I'm going to try and get this hole threaded in a way that lets me keep the thread. I'll show you this in a second here. Lets me keep it close to the side wall of the instrument. More like that. Okay, so looking from the perspective that I had before, I pulled the peg out so that the hole was close to this side, because I want the winding to be close to the side, the fat end, because that actually keeps it tighter. If I put it over here, the thread is going to kind of keep it loosening up on me. So, you see in the process, I lost a little bit of that. But you know what? That's okay too. Like I said, it doesn't matter what order we do it in. I could also start from this end, wind it in a little bit, and just, nice little